are missing some seats. You can sit also on the stairs, right? But as far as I can see, there are some free places, so you can take it. All right, so good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the authorities of the University of Economics in Katowice, I would like to welcome you very, very warmly to the third edition of international project Economics Without Borders. The project has received fundings from the Ministry of Education and Science under the program of Social Responsibility of Science. At the very beginning, I would like to welcome our special guests, the speakers of today, who is Professor Ildeberto Rodello from the University of São Paulo, Brazil. Welcome. Professor Evert Blanco, National University Asuncion, Paraguay. Professor Joanna Gocłowska-Bolek, University of Warsaw, Poland, of course. And our Professor Małgorzata Pańkowska, who is the chair of the session today. I would like to also welcome the speaker of yesterday, Professor Yuri Seo from the University of Auckland Business School, New Zealand. There is also in Katowice Professor Kim Pham from the Victoria University of Wellington from New Zealand, but well, he doesn't feel well. Well, hopefully it is not after the presentation yesterday, but tomorrow he will also participate with us. But also tomorrow will join us the two other persons, which are the special guests, special speakers, Professor Jorge Gomez from Lisbon School of Economics and Management from University of Lisbon in Portugal, and also from the Portugal, Michael Feldman, head of Department of Portuguese National Human Rights Institutions, which is the National Ombudsman of Portugal. They are on the way, so today afternoon they will also join us. So a few words about the project. The main aim of the project is to promote the science on international scale by organizing at our university special debates and also the very interesting presentations of the scientific achievements, research and work of outstanding scientists from all over the world. The project main activities includes 3 editions, which each of them takes scientific debates, and the scientific debates will take place in a few minutes here. Then also the afternoon, the special meetings with the PhD candidates that during the very informal meeting, they could analyze the issue related to the PhD thesis and the research they want to conduct in the future. And also each edition includes special speeches popularizing science among the young people and local community. And this event will take place tomorrow. And this event will be combined together with the Global Village that we would like to promote the culture of the countries of our special guests. The events are designed to present economics and social culture issue, including aspects of social responsibility, sustainability, and also the economy of inclusions from the perspective of the 6 continents. I know that we have 7 continents, but the universities, in fact, are located only on the 6. Of course, on Antarctica, we have the research institutes, but it was quite difficult to invite anyone from the Antarctic. So we have the 3 editions, so the 2 continents for each edition. First edition, which took place last year, there was Africa and Europe. Then the second edition was dedicated to North America and Asia. And This time we have Australia with New Zealand and South America, and today exactly the South America will be our main focus. So invited speakers are the prominent scientists and experts from the countries such as, in the previous edition, there was Egypt, there was Spain, Germany, US, India, Azerbaijan, and this time, as you know, we have New Zealand, Brazil, Paraguay, Portugal, and of course, professors from Poland. They have been recognized for their exceptional achievements in the field of economic science. In particular, they work in implementing innovative scientific teaching and business solutions. Economics Without Borders will be one kind of the large-scale initiatives. During this time, University of Economics in Katowice, I hardly believe that it will become the economics hub for the whole Poland. And also, I believe that there will be the place to be where the high-class researchers from around the world will share their knowledge, their experience, and they will discuss and exchange the idea with you. And also, I hope that the project will help to identify the new opportunities and hidden potential, as well as the forced dialogue and engage the wide range of the stakeholders like you, dear students, like our professors, like our guests, and also the guests, special guests who are watching us online, which I also would like to welcome very warmly at our project. So, ladies and gentlemen, our project received the special honorary patronage of the Minister of Education and Science, the patronage of the Silesia Voivodeship, also the Silesia Marshal, the President of the Katowice City, the Silesian Metropolis. Also, we received the honorary patronage of NAVA, which is the National Agency of International Exchange, and we received the honorary patronage of the CIMAN, which is international institutions giving international accreditations for the studies, which we received this international accreditation 2 years ago, and this guaranteed the high quality of teaching at our university. A part of it, we receive also the honorary patronage for the institutions which are very close to our university. So we have CRASP, which is the Conference of the Rectors of the Polish Public Universities, CRUE, which is the Conference of the Rectors of the University of Economics in Poland. Then we have honorary patronage from the Polish Association of Economics, the journal Perspective, PROM, and of course the rector of our university, Professor Celina Olszak. And of course, nowadays, we can do not any project without the media. So we are very happy that we also get the media patronage of the Polish television Katowice, Dziennik Zachodni, which is the local newspaper, the Polish radio Katowice, and the scientific journal Forum Akademickie, and the online journal Nasze Miasto, which should promote this event among the local society. As I mentioned before, this day is dedicated to the South America, so I would like to invite you to the short movie presenting some facts about this continent.
My name is Hela and I'm from University of Economics in Katowice, and I think that economics has no borders. There are 7 continents in the world. In this series, I'm going to fill you in on details about their economic and socio-cultural issues. Let me guide you across South America today. South America, the 4th largest of the world continents, is found in the Western Hemisphere and covers 12% of the total Earth's land area. South America consists of 12 countries and it's populated by over 440 million people. Despite that, South America has many languages. Portuguese and Spanish are commonly spoken, but also English, German, Italian, French, and many others. Called a land of extremes thanks to the uniqueness of its natural features such as diverse terrain and climate, tropical, temperate, arid and cold. The Amazon rainforest is the largest tropical forest in the world. It also a home to untamed indigenous tribes. The researchers believe that there are 77 uncontacted tribes here. 20% of the world's bird species live here, including toucans and hummingbirds. As for 2023, the nominal GDP of South America is over $4 trillion US. South Americans suffer from 6.3% inflation and unemployment rate of around 10%. Average price of petrol is almost $1 per liter. Monthly salary stands at $1,604 USD. 1.2% of the population doesn't have access to electricity. As for 2019, CO2 emissions amount to 2.6 metric tons per capita. Did you know that the world's largest coffee producer, Brazil, is located on this continent? Brazil has been the highest producing country for coffee for over 150 years. Chile is the top copper producer in the world with 28% of global copper production and the world's second largest producer of lithium with 22% share of world production. Most houses in Paraguay don't have doorbells. Visitors clap their hands for a few seconds to announce themselves. Amazon River is the largest river by discharge volume of water in the world, with an average flow of 230,000 cubic meters per second. That's all for now. If you want to know more about our world, check out our YouTube channel. And if you want to learn more about economics, study at University of Economics in Katowice, Poland.
Right, so after brief statistics, I would like to welcome our special guest to the stage. So first I would like to invite Ildeberto Rodello. He's the Director of Informatic Technology Centers of the University of São Paulo in Brazil. So please join us here. So you can take the seat over there. Then I would like to invite Professor Evert Blanco, a professor of the private law at the Administrative School of the Faculty of Economics and Science at the National University of Asuncion in Paraguay. I would like to invite right now Professor Joanna Gosławska-Bolek from Warsaw School, University of Warsaw, sorry. And finally, I would like to invite our chair, Professor Małgorzata Pańkowska. She's the professor of the social science and chair of the Department on Informatics at our university. I would like to just brief some information, organizational information. We start right now this the presentation and debate, and we are going to finish 11:30. So, dear students, don't leave the aula before we will finish, because you will have enough time to go to another course or lectures today. And also for those students who need the confirmation that you are here, just to give to to your professors that you should have the lectures right now. So 10 minutes before we will finish the presentation, this debate, you will see on that screen the special code, so you can scan it and you can fill in, and immediately on the email you will get the confirmation that you are here. So you didn't visit the Silesia City Center, but you are here and you actively participate in this event. So please stay till the end of this debate. Thank you very much. And now I would like to give the floor to Professor Pańkowska and our fantastic guest. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. Welcome, dear students, dear guests. Our first session is on promoting innovative research in economics from the perspective of South America. So I would propose first presentation of our dear guests, our professors, and later there will be the time for questions, comments, and so on from the Professor Gosławska and also from the students, guests, and so on. Professor, time is for you. Please, Professor Ildeberto Rodello, give us a presentation.
Dobre. I'm really glad to be here today. For me, it's an honor. Thank you for the invitation. It's not my first time here. I was here in 2018. I was an invited lecturer in the International Week, a very good event here. I was also in remote mode in 2021, also attending the International Week. As way, I feel at home here to talk to you again. And I also very happy to be here, to see this auditorium full of students, and I would like to congratulate you about that.
Okay, can we see presentation of Professor Rodello?
My presentation is not here yet. So, while they are preparing my presentation here, I prepared two different presentations for you. The first one that is supposed to be that first section, it's about a more specific presentation about my research area. I will talk a little bit about data science, because I'm a computer scientist. I work nowadays in a business administration faculty, but I'm a computer scientist from information technology area. And in the second session, I will talk a little bit about a more general presentation about Brazil and about the potential areas of research in Brazil. Okay, so if you have some problem, I can initiate. Okay. I had prepared a presentation. As Yuri that did it yesterday, he talked a little bit freely speak, but I prepared some support because I have some numbers and presentations for you. So just regarding my curiosity, are there some students here from past international weeks that are attending my course or not? 2021. I asked to Professor Margosata and she said probably no, but I'm, for curiosity, asking to you. No? No, yeah.
The students were from computer science, and here we have mostly students from marketing.
Yeah, okay. Oh, great. Okay, so here are my presentation. As I told you, my first presentation is about my research area related to data science. I prepare these topics for you. First, I will talk about my university, University of São Paulo. I'm not living in São Paulo City. I told you we have 8 campi, and I work in one of these campi. I have, after that, to talk a little bit about data science. It's the moment topic, I believe, but it's a topic that we can discuss for a long time ago. And going deep in the data science, I will talk a little bit about the jurimetrics, and this is my recent research area, and we studied some lawsuits, okay? And I present to you a case of my research group, the habeas data research group, and finishing with some comments. Okay, what about University of São Paulo? University of São Paulo is the largest and the better university of Brazil, and one of the best universities in Latin America. We have almost 100,000 undergraduate and graduate students spread in this camp here. I live here, Ribeirão Preto, okay? In addition to Ribeirão Preto, we have a campus in other cities spread in São Paulo state. São Paulo state is this state here. We have 25 states in Brazil. So we have here the Brazilian map, and São Paulo state is here. It's the most economically active state in Brazil. Okay, we have a very huge diversity in terms of cultural and economics in Brazil, and São Paulo, regarding the economics, is the most powerful. We have in the University of São Paulo about 2,000 to 5,200 faculty members, and this number of programs, and we are responsible for 20% of all scientific production in Brazil. It's a state university, it's a public and free of tax university. The students didn't pay anything to study there. So, let's talk a little bit about data science. I believe you have heard about. What is data science? Data science, it's a mix of several areas, as statistics, mathematics, and computer science. That's the reason because I'm working on that. And we have the specialization of one specific area, for instance, in my case, related to the law. Okay? Our colleague here, Professor Evert, is a lawyer, and I work with lawyers there. We will have a multidisciplinary team working. I will tell you about this in advance. So, then we can apply artificial intelligence, machine learning, statistics methods, whatever, to try to improve decision. That's the reason, because I studied and I'm get some bridge with a business to improve decision making. The life cycle is more or less like this. I'm presenting you the CRISP data mining methodology from IBM. You need to understand the business problems, to understand your data. In my case, I'm trying to understand the judiciary problems and to understand the data, the lawsuit data, the defendants, the time, the subject, etc. And here you have the data in the middle. Then you need to prepare the data. And then you have there the extraction, transformation, and loading, etc. And to develop a model, to deploy this model, and to evaluate. If you do not have your results, you can back here to understand the business problem and to try to improve, and etc. Then you have this cycle getting improvements. So, what are the challenges? First of all, I believe we have the huge amount of data. And these data are from different types. You have text data, you have unstructured data, structured data, you have a PDF, you have Excel files, CSV, etc., and you need to mix. That's a challenge mainly for the information technology. Okay, in my case, studying law suites, in Brazil you have at least 100 different courts and different levels. And the information about these courts are different. And we need to make some kind of a standard to analyze this data. And that is a challenge. The extraction, transformation, and loading is also other challenge. For instance, in that 100 courts, I have to develop web scraping methods, 100 different web scraping methods to extract, to gather the data. So we have a huge work here to gather the data and transform this data on useful information. And after that, to decide what statistical method, data visualization method, and tools to apply, and also to improve decision making. Here, in the improving decision making, we have another challenge, because not always our user knows what she or he wants. Okay, and so here we have a big challenge. Going deep about data science applying to law, we have, I'm a member of habeas data. I believe you have heard about habeas corpus, that free the body to free some person from prison, for instance. I'm trying to free the data, in the case in Brazil. So we are a research group, a multidisciplinary team. I'm the coordinator of IT team. I'm responsible to gather the data and to provide the data sets to the other members of my research group. First for the statisticians, and after that to the lawyers. The statisticians will apply statistical method, and the lawyers will analyze the result. And if the result do not attend the lawyer, that life cycle I show you, we put again and again working until we'll have this information for decision making. Okay, we conduct empirical research with real data and with application in real scenarios. So I will present some results of our research. The first one here, so I don't know, but in South America, the car wash operation, it was a very huge operation against corruption. Not so in Brazil, but in Peru, also I believe in Paraguay too. And in Brazil, you have more than 100 defendants in this operation, and more than 100 lawsuits. And we got some studies related to the car wash. And here we apply a technique about network analysis. And we are trying just to understand regarding one lawsuit and the defendants of that lawsuit, what are the links about this defendants and that lawsuits? We discover a lot of interesting things, mainly related to the President Lula and the other politicians. At the beginning, President Lula was appointed as the center of this corruption scheme. But analyzing the network and the lawsuits, he was not. Okay, we had some interesting results here. So, using this QR code, you have this access to this network here. You can interact, you can change the view, etc. In mobile phones, I guess it's not so interesting because you need more space and the screen space is not so interesting. It's a data visualization problem regarding the computer size in a challenge. But I have here the link in the computer side, in the personal computer, you can explore this data deep. So here I have another example. Is yeah, okay. This animation is starting. We apply here the process mining technique. The process mining is a technique for production, and this technique we can analyze the flow of lawsuits. That was another project related to the Brazilian National Council, and they are interested in how was the flux among the lawsuits, which stage that lawsuits pass through. And here you can observe the stages here, and here we can observe the lawsuits. We analyze here more than 1 million of lawsuits. And we can identify some gaps. For instance, here we have a gap, here we have a gap, here we have a gap. And we are going deep to these steps to understand what are those steps and how to improve these gaps here to get the lawsuits quickly to solve. In Brazil, in average, you have more or less 10 years to solve a lawsuit, depending of the subject. Okay? And going a little bit more, I will talk a little bit about my area, research area nowadays, related to the artificial intelligence. I'm applying the artificial intelligence. I'm not developing methods, but just applying methods of artificial intelligence. And for that, I apply some methods of natural processing language, classifications of decision to improve decision making. And talk a little bit about improved decision making. Here you have a system developed for a student of mine. He is a master's student now. His undergraduate monography. He developed a prediction system where you input a lawsuit step, and it gives for the judge, for instance, or for the lawyer, the probability of decision regarding one court, regarding the subject, etc. What's the probability of to be positive or negative that asking someone is making to the justice? Okay, here we have some input information. Then we have the probability here, the chance of to be positive or negative. Okay. From the point of view of artificial intelligence regarding 100 courts in Brazil, for one court, for instance, São Paulo, it was our training data set. It was really good results. But when we change to the other tribunal, we not have the same result. Why? because the cultural differences mainly, okay? So, one of the big problems in applying artificial intelligence in the law is related to the bias. Artificial intelligence, as I told you, have a different, mainly in Brazil, have a different kind of decisions for the same law, considering different regions. We found that with an empirical research. And what is an interesting area to research? The explainable artificial intelligence. That system I show you, our objective now for that same student, he is a master degree now, and he is trying to apply explainable artificial intelligence. What is this? To tell how artificial intelligence make that decision. Okay? That's a challenge that there is no so much studies in this area, and we are trying to contribute, mainly to the judiciary management. Okay? Brazilian Council, Justice of Council, is funding this research. So, here you have a link of University of São Paulo if you have more information. We have an agreement with the University of Katowice, specifically my faculty. And that's it, my first speech here. Thank you so much. I'm glad to answer your questions after Professor Evert's speech. Thank you so much. Dziękuję.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor. Just now, we would like to ask for presentation of Professor Evert Blanco. Professor Evert, the floor is for you. Yes.
Hello, everybody. How are you? Hello? So, I was watching the video of Paraguay, and they said we don't have doorbells. Interesting, that's true. Because we hate that. So we clap. Because if we have a doorbell, we don't pay attention. I mean, if you have a doorbell, people won't show up. So even if they have doorbell, you have to clap. I don't know why, it's just us. So how are you? And I see a lot of young people here, right? All of you are, yes? A lot of young people. I am from Paraguay, probably the only Paraguayan you know. So I'm the most famous Paraguayan in this place, right? So the reason I asked if you're like really young is because I teach the first semester of the Faculty of Economic Science, especially in administration, business administration. So a lot of my students are they're kind of confused. They don't know what to do. They chose that, but they have some doubts, right? And it's hard because sometimes when you finish a career, you realize that that's not really what you want to do. Sometimes you spend 6 years studying something, and then you realize you like another stuff, right? For example, I wanted to be a rock star, but I went to law school because I don't know how to sing. I love rock and roll, but obviously, I'm not that good. I'm a decent lawyer, average, I would say. And I start teaching. I mean, I don't know if I'm good or not, but I like to talk. So maybe that's a good thing for a teacher. So when I start my classes, I ask all my students, what do you want to do? So I'm asking you guys, very young, what do you want to do with your life? Do you know? Yeah, I don't know either, so I'm 40. So we're okay. So, but most of them, after they think, they start thinking about that, and most of them now say they want to own their own business. Back in the days, it was different. Like my parents, for them, the most important thing was stability. Maybe it has to do with the post-war generation. They wanted stability. But for us, especially for you guys, stability is not that important anymore. Stability is something like you stuck, right? So now people want to be independent. People want to be free. They want to move around. Like what Professor Rodello said, they want to be nomads sometimes. Right? They want to work in a distance. They don't want to have a boss. They don't want to have a clique for work. So it's an interesting situation nowadays. So we, as Latin American, we have a market which is called Mercosur. It's between Brazil, Paraguay, Argentina, and Uruguay. And some other countries, but they are the main partners. It is like the European Union, but it's not. It is like the European Union in the 1970s, probably. I'm not an expert on that. But we want to replicate what you have, this amazing union that is Europe. Obviously, we're very young people. I mean, my country is only 200 years old. Poland is like 1,000 years old, right? So we still have a lot to learn. Yeah? I'm not a good, I don't, yes. I could sing a song right now, but, oh, wait. Okay, so this is basically, I don't want to read that, but you can take a look. In 1999, it started the negotiations between the European Union and Mercosur for a trade agreement. It's been negotiated for over 20 years. And they still, I mean, they agree on almost everything, but now they had to ratify it in each country. Imagine, like, how many countries are there in the European Union? 27 different countries, right? In Mercosur, we are more, I would say we are more alike, especially for languages, history. I mean, the Portuguese and Spanish are not that different. And I thought like Polish and Russian were alike, and I was wrong because it's completely different. Is it or not? Right? Or, I don't know, another language from Romanian, for example. All the languages are different, all the stories are, even though are related, but they're a little bit of differences. So, and we want to trade with you guys. I mean, we desperately need the money from that the markets in Europe could give us. And we can offer something for you guys. So I thought maybe I can offer a business idea for you. What do you think? You want to make some money? I do. So basically, I'm going to explain what is the trade about. So we have some tariff, like and limitations between, to do commerce between Latin America and Europe. We can offer what? What do you think Latin America can offer to Europe? Exactly. We can offer you food because we produce a lot of it. Between Argentina, Brazil is probably the largest producer of soy and wheat of the world, coffee. So we can offer cheap food. Especially now that we have some problems in Europe, right? Ukraine used to be the provider of that. And with this problem, I think we should look for other places, right? So I think we can offer that. And Europe can offer technology, can offer good products. All the products are like manufactured products. And that's the idea of this agreement, this trade agreement. So we can free all the tariff and limitation from manufactured products from Europe to Mercosur and to food and other types of commodities to Europe. That's at least is the idea. There's a lot of criticism of that, especially in Europe. Why do you think would be the criticism of the Europeans regarding our food? What do you think would be the problem? Genetics, maybe? What else? What? Can you say again?
People are generally afraid of something different.
Probably, but the main fear is that we don't comply a lot. Remember, we're South Americans. And the European Union is a very strict. Poland, Germany, France, they have strict regulations. So they say, Latin America, what are you doing? You're not going to lie to me? You said you send a good product, an environmental free product, but you're using pesticides. And here the farmer of Poland or the farmer in France, they're complying, they're using all the natural products. It's not fair, right? But imagine, it's a market of almost 800 million people. It's a lot of people. And you need to eat, right? And we need fancy stuff. We need cars, German cars. We need Polish cars, right? We had Opel. How many car manufacturers there are here in Poland? See it? So imagine, now the tariff of the manufactured products from Europe to South America, they pay around from 35% to 15%. So the main products of export would be cars, machinery, and chemical products. So I think Poland is a very industrial, they had a lot of industries, and it can definitely offer something. And maybe let's make a deal with Paraguay. Paraguay is small, but we had something to offer. Like I said, the negotiation started in 1999. Look at that. That's the amount of money that they are trading now. 45 billion euros. That's a lot of money. And that if all the countries of the European Union ratifies this, that can duplicate, triple, or who knows, right? Who knows what's going to happen? And for us, it's great. A lot of people think it's too difficult to do it. But in my opinion, we can do it. So imagine you guys, you want to start a business. I was speaking with the vice rector, he said, Poland is a great place to start a business. So in Paraguay, it's also decent to start a business. You can start a company in 4 days for completely free. You only need your passport. You don't need anything else. You might need a partner in Paraguay. You can call me if you like, and we can start that company. And we can start searching for alternatives. Because imagine, this world is being united. I mean, can you see, like, we are in Poland speaking in English. Imagine this 20 years ago. Almost impossible, right? And now everything is changing. We're open to the world. There are always some groups of people, they don't want us to be united as the world. Like they say the Kardashian scale, like we're arriving at type 1 civilization or something, right? We had one language, we had one sport, football, right? And we relate to each other, even though we live so far away. So I think it's a good idea. So these are the goals, like more specific of the things that I mentioned. The criticisms, especially from Austria, France, the farmers, they are very protected because they think especially when they were very critical of Bolsonaro in Brazil because he didn't want to protect the Amazons. But now that changed because the new President Lula is very oriented on open to the world again. So our hopes are really high now. And then I say, we can be partners, people, Paraguay and Poland. We can definitely be partners and make some money, right? So you can see a little bit of Paraguay. Paraguay is very small compared to Brazil and Argentina, but you can see there Paraguay is a very big, sizable country. It's bigger than England, bigger than most of the countries in Europe. We are poor. The GDP, you see, is pretty low. What is your GDP now in Poland? Do you know? Could be around $20,000. I'm not sure. What do you guys think? Do you think Poland is a rich country? In the middle. Okay. And do you think Poland has the potential to be a future leader in Europe? I like that. You are. That's true. Because, according to what I investigate, the prospect of Poland are very positive. For the next, maybe in the next 15, 20 years, you will be one of the leading countries in terms of economics in Europe and probably in the world. We have a good thing in Paraguay. We had lots and lots of people. So we can hire a lot. And they're very young. And they are very cheap. We are very cheap. It's a cheap country. And Paraguayans love to work. So, what do you think? We can open a business. So, as you see there, our electricity is 100% clean. Why is that? Because we have 3 big dams, Itaipu, Yacyretá, and Acai, and they produce all the electrical energy that we use. So it's abundant and it's free. You see, Poland? I was doing some research, and you have a strong economy, so you can help us be better. You are helping me now because I'm here. I'm learning how to do proper research. In Paraguay, the research part, it's terrible. We're not that good. And I can see here, when I was speaking with Professor Malgorzata, the vice rector, you're doing a lot of work on that. So we want to replicate that. So we can be business partners, but we can also be academic partners. And we can learn a lot from you. And you also have strong military, so you can protect us. I don't know, who knows? We want to be protected. And an example or a way of doing this collaboration would be, I was doing some case study with my student, and we found this Mesa de Finanzas Sostenibles. I would tell you this in my next presentation. So let's work together, guys. What do you think? Thank you.
Now, time for questions and comments. So maybe I propose to first Professor Joanna to ask questions and give comments on presentations. Yes, please, Professor.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure to listen to your presentations, your both presentations, very interesting. Especially that I really focus in my research on your region, I mean Latin America. I'm a specialist on the crisis, and it happens a lot in your regions, in all the countries, and in between the countries, but thanks a lot that you didn't talk about the crisis, but the potential and the good sides of the economists. And I have a lot of questions. I have a lot of notes. Probably we will not go in deeply into all of them, but still I'm really interested in some further research on the field you, Professor, mentioned about the car wash. But let's explain shortly to our students, because you know, in Brazil and in the whole region, car wash like the most famous corruption affair ever. But maybe here in Poland we don't talk that much about this dark side of your political and business network. But going back to 2014, I believe the car wash started as the affair. Probably more or less, yes. It was 2014 that they discovered first signs of the corruption affair, and then a lot of lawyers engaged in this affair and just were able to discover the links between the business, the biggest and the most important corporation in Brazil, and a lot of politicians, and from both opposition and the leading parties, everybody was engaged. And you talked about your research that touched this problem. So you use the data analysis and you link with all the lawyers. And I find it really exciting that you engage in this project. But I would like to ask you, if this is possible from your side, from your university, because you are based in the university and you are a researcher, yeah? Is it possible to manage all this research, you know, in cooperation with the lawyers? I mean, so many lawyers, and also from the other countries, because this corruption affair, Lava Jato, I mean car wash, is not your Brazilian story, but also with the links to Peru, to Panama, to Mexico, to Paraguay as well, all the countries. Yeah? So how do you manage to build all the links with so many people, I mean lawyers in all these countries, and if you have any network of research cooperation with the researcher, as you are in USP, but in other universities across the region? Is it really possible to build such an intense network of cooperation between the researchers and lawyers, you know, across the region?
Okay, thank you for your question. This is a really good question. So the car wash was an operation against corruption. As Brazilian, I'm not, how do I say, I'm ashamed about that. It starts, as you told, in 2014, but I believe after President Dilma's impeachment in 2016, it got stronger, the investigation. It involves at first big companies, construction big companies, and a lot of politicians. Yes, in the beginning of our research, we thought about, so let's study the whole network, including Paraguay, Peru, etc. We tried to connect some links to Peru at first, but for a while we give up the idea because analyzing from the data science point of view, we have a hard work to organize the data just for the Brazilian point of view. We had exactly 2,145 lawsuits, more or less, and a lot of defendants. And we are trying to organize that for politicians' positions, for the companies. So we had a lot of problems to organize the data. And we are really trying a connection, an interchange with Peru. I had a connection with a professor there, but for a while it is in standby because it's not possible to gather the data of justice in Peru, for instance. In Brazil, we have a law called the transparency law, where that data we are working on is public. The courts must to publicize the data. Then we can get the data. And in Peru, it's not the same situation. You need to ask to get this data, and it's very hard for us. That's the reason because we are not studying the other connections for a while.
Okay, so anyhow, you have a lot of to study on and to make research on. And I would like to ask maybe not only about this particular field, but all the field of your study. Is it possible to unit students, I mean, to your research? Because as here in Poland, we have like one of our objectives, yes, to invite students to our projects, and we sometimes we really encourage young people, young scientists to join our projects as they can help collecting data and also, you know, making some basic research on this. Is it possible, the same situation possible in Brazil, and especially in this case? Because it's like a very sensitive story, I believe. But you say that the data is open, so probably the research results of your study also is open for the public. So is it possible to engage students to this research and put it open to everybody after having made this research?
It's a very specific topic for the Brazil, okay, the car wash operation. But we work with the open data, and always the data are free. If you want the data, I can send you the data without any problem. Okay, we involve undergraduate and graduate students In ABIA's data group, we have more or less 20 students working with us. We have a funding from Brazilian National Council and also the university. Yeah. So, but yes, the data is open. You can work on that. I believe the barrier is the Portuguese language. But yes, it's open. And for me, it's a pleasure to share our results. Some of them, that results are not available because in agreement of a Brazilian Justice Council, we have a statement that we need to ask to Brazilian Council to publish, but they are open.
Okay, and another question, because you talked about the research on artificial intelligence, and I believe this is like one of the most important topics right now, and also in the most important direction.
So the processing natural language is an interesting challenge. First, because Portuguese language has, how do I say, difference in terms of syntax. Sometimes the same word have different meanings depending of the semantic construction of the phrase. And that's a challenge to be overcome, the first. After that, among the lawyers has a next specific language, and it is also another problem.
Yes, here in Poland we observe the same.
We like to confuse people. And sometimes when I was developing the artificial intelligence system, I had the support of a lawyer, a professor of law, and always I've asked to her, so if this situation, the result is that, she always answered to me, oh, depending on. So, but I needed a standard, I said to her, but there is no standard. Depending on the judge, depending on the region, you have different decisions for the same law. And I said, so how do I resolve the situation? At the first moment, I think with myself, okay, I will give up because it's very hard. But so, no, I'm a researcher and I need to solve this problem. And we are trying to solve this problem now. And also, solving the bias problem. Depending on the situation, you have biases on decisions. And sometimes, one result, interesting result we discovered regarding the car wash. Besides you have a lot of lawyers in Brazil, just a small group is working in the lawsuits. They specialized in this kind of subject, and when observe the data, we just, oh, why it's so not so much lawyers are working on this case? It's a kind of a monopoly. That's interesting results we had there.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor. People from audience, do you have any questions, comments concerning the presentations? Not yet.
I think it's a very specific topic.
Very.
Okay, so
there is a question, yeah?
I have my questions if you don't, but please take your time.
The mic is needed for speaker. Yeah. For Professor here, in the first row. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Yeah, I was wondering about the differences that you were mentioning, the differences between European countries, and I'm representing Portugal here. So, and and Latin American countries. And in many Latin American countries, I've visited Paraguay only once and Brazil many times, but the informal economy is quite big there. I don't like to call it informal economy. This is an economic school, right? I like to call it natural economy, right? Because what is this informal economy? Informal economy is everything that we've done since we started, being humankind and trading. Then taxes appeared, and then, we are distinguishing between the informal economy, the economy that every human being has done forever, and the economy that the governments are doing. So in Latin American countries, informal economy is quite big. So you invited, students to go there, make business with you. Here in Europe, informal economy is always trying to be controlled. Yeah, I'm not sure how it works in Poland, but in Portugal,
And the problem, we have a problem in Latin people especially. We need somebody in our back to be good. You gotta change, otherwise, because if it's for us, we won't change. So that is another reason why I personally want this trade to be implemented. Why? But they're also changing. Myself, I just created a company. It was an American that went to Paraguay, and he wanted to export meat, and a special cut of meat, to the United States. And he did the research and found that Paraguay has the perfect cow, the perfect soil, and the perfect cut of meat. And he was also very scared of that. So you can start a company in Paraguay for free. You can open a society for free. We see a foreigner, we could take advantage of that. But I think that is also changing. Very slow, but it is changing. So we need to think in the long term, and the agreement will help us with that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? For me, by the way, Paraguay is really very curious, because you can imagine 100% of energy is clean energy, absolutely. No coal, no pollutions. On the other side, very low taxes. Yeah? Could you say something, because it has consequences, yeah? There is no public expenditures. Yeah?
Yes,
Yeah.
It's like 10% of everything.
10% taxes. But the consequences is that you have no highways. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
the problem also, people don't believe in the institutions. So that's why they don't want to pay taxes. Like, I was listening to the professor yesterday from New Zealand, and for them it was so important, the trust, not only among people, but among the institutions. And we still far ahead of that. We need to trust more. We don't trust. That's another issue.
And could you please comment more on the issue that interests me especially so much? Because you told about the possible implementation of the agreement between Mercosur and the European Union. And, I wrote my master thesis several years ago about this agreement, just stating the thesis that, yes, it is to happen very soon. And then past 20 years, just on negotiating. And, we have the product, in 2019, but it's 4 years ago that we just agreed on some issues that, yes, we want to implement this. And still, nothing happened, really, because we don't have the implementation. So the legislative process is still to happen. And I know all the doubts on the European side, and also Poland has some doubts because, as you mentioned, we are the food producer, and for us Paraguay and also Brazil is like, you know, the opposite story of this food production, because you produce this probably better and especially cheaper. But still, there are many questions about the quality, of course. But I would like to ask you, how do you assess the real chances of the implementation on the Latin American side, I mean on the Mercosur side? So are you really towards this implementation, or do you just have more doubts than pros in this process?
Well, in my opinion, I did. Obviously, you probably know way more than I. Mercosur is not a problem now. Mercosur is willing to take this huge market. Bolsonaro, he kind of like didn't like, but he's not in the government anymore. There's some problems that, and we had to be honest here, right? The food producers of Europe, they are one of the main detractors of the treatment, because they get in subsidies almost 40% of the whole budget of the European Union. It's a lot of money, right? And they have a lot of control. They're a very strong group of people. And I think I did a little research. I might be wrong, but the European Union maybe want to change that. And that was one of the reasons of the implementation of this agreement. And maybe Europe is the one that has to be trust more, maybe. We could change. We could definitely change.
I keep my fingers crossed, you know, for this agreement, really. But I just wonder if we are not to renegotiate this, because, you know, after 4 years, after the pandemic, after the global changes concerning the Russia attack on Ukraine, that here in this part of Europe is really, really, you know, the game changer. Probably we should have a different view on these chances, that opportunities, yes, that gives us this agreement and closer relationships between Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay, and our countries. And I would like to ask you, Professor Ildeberto, also about how do you see the possibilities of the common research between Mercosur countries and European countries? I mean, are there any real procedures, maybe regulations that really help this? And how would you assess all this important problem? I mean, I'm really interested in the research cooperation between Polish universities and Brazilian, Paraguayan, but maybe a bit wider.
Firstly, I'd like to give us some comments about Mercosur. I'm not a specialist on trading or something like that. In my point of view, it's an interesting field of opportunities. So if you make some kind of a SWOT analysis, I believe we have interesting opportunities between European Union and Mercosur. In fact, Mercosur is not all countries in South America agree about Mercosur. That's the truth there. Brazil, Paraguay, Argentina, Uruguay, Chile, okay, but some countries are not so, I don't know, interested, but regarding the government, the style for right or for left, etc. I'm not discussing politicals, but they have some kind of resistance, isn't it? Okay, that vision is changing when we change the government in Brazil. The last president was not so open to that, and the nowadays president is open to this kind of trade. It was not communicated, but in the visit of China last week, I believe he discussed about that, because it's not so interesting to China, Brazil make some kind of agreement with Union European, because we have a very strong trade with China, and all the world moves like that, more or less. Okay, so I observe very good opportunities for both sides. We have a strong agriculture, the possibility to exchange technology with you, with Poland or Union European. In my point of view, in addition to the academics, I believe academics is a very strong cooperation between Brazilian universities, mainly University of São Paulo, and other European universities, not just in Poland, but in Germany, in France. We received in my university at least 20 students from France every semester. I have a special course for French students there. And I observe the increasing audience of other countries as Belgium, German, in receiving a student there. And we are also, you'll be welcome there. I have noticed that 2 Brazilian students was here in the last years, but we are not, never received students for University of Katowice there. And we are open to that. Okay, we are welcome there. We are very open people to friendships and whatever. Okay, so regarding the opportunities, I believe academic will have a solid possibilities, and for trading and technology transfer, I'm positive with this agreement Evert told us that will be facilitating our cooperation. I think so.
Well, I agree mostly with what he said. We are, at the National University of Asuncion, we would like to have students from Europe, especially now Poland. And that would be a good starting point to understand our country, right? So before we start a business, you can start to understand our culture. We are very friendly, like the Brazilians. We like to gather around, easy to be friends with, and that is the special aspect about Paraguay, that we are very warm people. Like all the people that I spoke with that visit the country say, "Oh, you guys are very nice. Relax."
Yes, that's true. Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, I think that for years there was a problem with language. And mostly from Latin America, the students went to Spain, to Portugal, from Brazil, but Eastern Europe was separate countries, and just now maybe they change it, and we have globalization, and a lot of students that travel more, and teachers also, so there's opportunities are created for exchange. Yeah.
Yes, but still more and more young people here in Poland learn Spanish as the second language. So probably all of you here speak English perfectly, but how many of you really know Spanish? Can you just sign it?
Yeah,
Who knows
Over
Spanish?
there.
Okay.
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
More people
but
just
hablas-
to...
hablas
Spanish music
español?
is popular now, like Bad Bunny,
Yeah.
reggaeton. You know, do you listen to Spanish music?
¿Quién habla español?
Yeah. And Mary...
Sí, yeah.
Hola, España.
Okay.
Okay.
¿De qué parte de España son? Qué lindo. Quiero conocer España.
So,
Sorry, I was
Next question.
So,
how many
I
of
changed
you
my
have
cassette, you know, my chip, Spanish.
Yes, next questions in Spanish, please.
So I agree, Brazilian, the Portuguese is a barrier, the language is a barrier. But the experience of the French students there is very interesting. We offer Portuguese classes to learn how to survive in Portuguese language. But we are very friendly, as I told you, and the most foreign students live with other Brazilian students. And I said the best environment to learn Portuguese is not our classes, but the parties, the university parties. It's incredible. For 1 week to another, they improve a lot the vocabulary on Portuguese.
I just know many students that went without knowing a word in Portuguese, went to Brazil, and just after 1 week of having a boyfriend from Brazil, they spoke perfect Portuguese. So having a boyfriend or girlfriend from Brazil really helps, I think.
Yeah.
We can go to the carnival, right? In Rio.
Yeah, that's just for a period.
So you see there is an opportunity of investment in girls.
Another reason to go and see.
You can learn how to dance. There's so many things you can do.
At the most of times we just talk about the funny side, but we have, as I told you, very interesting opportunities there, very interesting companies, mainly for agriculture. I'll talk about that in the next section. We are open to discuss. We have a very corruption. It was a black page of our history, but I believe we can change that.
But you have Amazonia, so
Yeah.
so it is for tourists or not? Not for tourists.
We have opportunities there. Even in Brazil, we need more opportunities to Amazonia. The government now has a different point of view about Amazonia. I agree with this point of view, and I think Amazonia is not just important to Brazil, but important to the whole world.
Exactly.
And we need to preserve.
I don't want to be bad policeman, but unfortunately I need to kill the discussion. Anyway, I'm so happy that finally, because at the very beginning we start with all the problems with the corruptions and so on, which also influence on the business, but finally we find very positive things, and a part of the very high business we can also have a lot of pleasure and enjoy the party in Latin America, and your positive spirit. Actually, I think that they will be the one of the biggest input into the Europe, because we need your energy and the positive way of thinking. So thank you very much for the first session, for the first debate. Right now, I would like to invite you for the coffee break, like 20 minutes. And in 20 minutes, I would like to welcome you or the other students or other professors again in the classroom. Thank you so much for a very interesting presentation. Good morning, guys. So can I ask you to slowly please take a seat? Morning, it's still before midday, so it's yeah. All right. I think that we can start. So good morning, everyone. Those who, of course, those who participate before the previous debate. And of course, I would like to welcome the professors, PhD candidates and students who are just joining us. So welcome all of you to our international project, Economics Without Borders. I have a special privilege to introduce you and to welcome again Professor Ildeberto Rodello from the University of São Paulo in Brazil. Professor Evert Blanco from National University of Asuncion, Paraguay. Professor Joanna Gocłowska-Bolek from University of Warsaw, Poland. And our host, Professor Małgorzata Pańkowska, University of Economics in Katowice. And Professor Pańkowska will be the chair of the session. As you recognize, today in this project we have South America. Of course, I would like to welcome our speakers from the yesterday. So Professor Kim Pham from the Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand, and Professor Yuri Seo, University of Auckland Business School, New Zealand. We have also with us, well, actually he went, Professor Jorge Gomez from Lisbon School of Economics and Management, University Lisbon, Portugal. But definitely tomorrow, all of this, our fantastic guests will have the special presentation in the form of the TEDx, and they will share with you the experience, the knowledge. But right now, I would like to give the floor to our guests. Only one information, some technical issue. 10 minutes before the end of the session, you will see on the screen the special code that you can scan and you can fill in and send us there. So we will send back confirmation that you are here during this presentation, during this debate. So in case that you need to confirm to your professors that you are here, so you can scan it. So please don't leave the room before we will finish the project. We will finish the debate 1:20. So you will have enough time to reach the next course of you today. So enjoy the debate which Professor Pańkowska will be leading. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Welcome once again. The topic of our session now is impact of research on society and examples of good practices from South America. So it was in the morning. Just now I asked professors for presentations. So first, Professor Ildeberto give us a presentation. Next, Professor Evert, and after that will be the time for questions, comments, and so on. Professor, the floor is for you.
Okay, thank you. For my first presentation, it was a little bit more specific, and now I will give you a more general presentation. Okay. In my first presentation, I just forgot to send some greetings to the remote people that is watching me, probably is watching me. I send the link to some Brazilian students. Olá, pessoal, tudo bem? As I told you, We'll talk about more general presentation now. It's not my specific research area. I've tried in this presentation to give you an overview about three interesting areas where I think we have very interesting opportunities to have some kind of collaboration. First of all, I will talk a little bit about Brazil, very short numbers presentation. After that, I will talk about 3 areas that, in my point of view, are important areas. I choose them based on my personal point of view and based also in some strategic movements of Brazilian government. Okay? And what about digital? Because I'm from the information technology, as I told you, I'm a computer scientist, and in my point of view, technology is important. Then I will more comfortable to talk about the digital area. Okay, and the areas are agriculture, digital health, and digital education. I'm most comfortable to talk about digital education because I have some students here too, but here I probably try to give you some interesting cases of Brazilian usage of technology. Okay. Oh, what about Brazil? Brazil is not so just a carnival or parties or soccer games. Yes, I love a soccer game. I like carnival, not so much as a soccer game, but for instance, I'm a fan of Lewandowski. Why not? My little kid has he asked me for a gift here from Poland, a shirt of Lewandowski. Okay. But Brazil has other interesting things to be discussed about. We have 200,000 million of inhabitants. We have around 8 billion of square kilometers. We had Amazon. In fact, we have 6 biomes and a very friendly people. And also, I present you some numbers here from GDP, AGI, and in the South America, we are the largest country and the most powerful economy there. In the Mercosur, we are the main player in the trades. So, not, how do I say, Paraguay is important, Argentina is important, Brazil has a protagonism in this area. Talk a little bit about these 3 areas as I prepare to you. First one, agriculture. Some facts about Brazilian agriculture. So this first phrase here, I believe I'm not so happy when I wrote, because we are not the largest country on terms of arable land. If you just make some search on Google, that's the possibility of a digital world, you find that you have India, United States, other countries. In fact, Brazil is the 5th position in the arable land today. But you have a very big potential of arable land, not considering the Amazon. Okay? And also considering improvements on production efficiency. That's the point here. We produce a lot of products there, mainly commodities. We are top 5 in 34 agricultural products, commodities, but we have potential to improve this more. Okay, so we are the largest agricultural net exporter. Those are some facts. I believe I can show you more data about, but I believe it was not the proposal here. Just to show you a shot about our facts related to agriculture. And as I told you, we have the potential. And where the strategic plan from government or from the area, using image processing, identify weeds, and for self-driving tractors, it's possible to deliver the fertilizer in specific areas where it's most needed. It's already done for some sugarcane industries in Brazil. They identify the weeds or the possibility of the weeds and attack this in advance. Okay, using GPS, you have autonomous tractors where the driver just watch. In fact, the driver is just to turn on the tractor during the process, and during the process is all controlled by GPS. Okay, we had in the next month in my city, Ribeirão Preto, the biggest event regarding agriculture in South America, I guess. It's called Agri Show. We received guests or companies from the whole world. To give you an idea, 6 months later, before, we don't have any room yet at our hotel, our hostels. We have people hosting in cities from 100 or 100.5 kilometers from Ribeirão Preto to attend this event. It intends to move around 6 billion of reais. Okay, so this area for us is very important, and we have investments to be delivered on that area. But we have some threats, of course, and connectivity. In the cities, we have a very good connectivity, depends on the city. But in the rural areas, it's a little bit difficult. Some companies, for instance, some sugarcane companies, make investments to develop 3G connections, or in case now, 5G connections, to deliver the data from the drones, for instance, or from the other devices, to improve decision-making and information system. Here, artificial intelligence is applied to make some predictive analysis. Okay? I told you about the sugarcane, because sugarcane is very strong in my region, but in the middle of Brazil, in these states here, Mato Grosso do Sul, they are very strong on soil production. And they also apply technology a lot to improve the production. But we have, in addition to that, we have the possibility to increase more, to be more efficient. That's the point I would like to tell you. So at the same, we have interesting investments on digital health. As the same, I will give you first some facts about digital health. First, talking about the Brazilian healthcare. Here we have the SUS. SUS is the unified healthcare system. We provide support for 7% of the Brazilian population for free. So you have a private insurance, yes, we have, but it's curious because when someone supported by the private healthcare has some difficult disease, hair cancer or something like that, who will support the surgery? The Brazilian SUS. Okay, they send to the SUS to be supported there. And nowadays, so here I have another fact. We are the largest healthcare market in Latin America. They are trying to make investments on healthcare. In my city, we have the Faculty of Medicine, and the best of Faculty of Medicine in Brazil. Also a very good hospital, 100% free, Dutch for special cases in my university. So, what are the strategic areas where the government is making some investments or deserving more attention? For instance, the data SUS. I told you about the SUS, okay, they unified the healthcare system. It generates a lot of data about the patients. It was not, or in fact nowadays is not so much managed, this data. And the government is investing about 83 million of reais to improve this information system for digitalization of public basic healthcare to support the population. But it's still have a long way to be walked here. Okay, well, considering the pressures of the pandemics, I note the increased way of telehealth. I don't know here, but it's becoming common in Brazil. You have a medical consultant using the smartphone for the more easier cases as a flu or something like that. Okay. So, and from the strategic point of view, we have recently the government announced an investment of 14 million of reais in the system. But I agree, it is the best? No, it's a little bit far away from that, but we are working to try to give a very good health assistance to the Brazilian population. For instance, if you came there to Brazil, probably you will be supported for free. There is no restrictions for that. Okay, and finally, regarding education. I work in a high-level institution, university, but for the earlier children and for the middle students, college, etc., we have a gap of 34% of this age are not in so full dedicating to studies. That's a problem. And and even for my university, for instance, we offer there for business administration course just 80 positions from the beginner students. We have if you want to get in the university there for business administration, you need to compete against more 16 or 18 people. Okay, the competitive scenario is more or less like that. And how the government is trying to solve this using distance learning. We learn a lot with the pandemics, in fact, there, and I believe it's the same situation here. The remote classes, the synchronous and asynchronous, etc., the learning environment, and we learn a lot about that. And I believe this is the future. Why not? I really like to be here. I really like to deliver this speech here in Poland, to travel, but it was possible to me to be in Brazil there. Now it's, yeah, what time is it now? Yeah, 12, so 6, yeah, 6 is the morning in Brazil now. And it was possible to me to deliver this speech from there, okay? But I agree, it's better to be here, of course. But it was possible, it is possible, and we to be possible. And we learned this with the pandemic, sorry. Okay, so you have a space to advance in this area there, because mainly in Brazil you have a very interesting rate of internet penetration. About 17% of a population has internet connection. It can be different from areas, regions, but for instance in São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, Rio Grande do Sul, you have a very interesting support of internet connection, and some cities has the possibility of 5G connections and etc. Yeah? If you take a look, not regarding just education, but for e-commerce, it is very interesting number. Even for Poland companies, for instance, if you have a product or a service, you can offer to the Brazilians because you have a very interesting e-consumers there. Okay? So you have problems to solve, for instance, the delivery, but if you have an interesting service, fintech, whatever, you can offer. Oh? So make your investments in Poland. You can offer to Brazil. Okay? Why not? It's supposed not to be because I have no money to investments, but for big companies, why not? Okay? So I give you some idea. If you want to open a company in Paraguay, maybe I can be a partner. So, concluding my speech here, in spite of the problems, yes, I agree you have problems with corruption, with some kind of poverty, but you are the largest economy in South America. We are a member of the BRICS. You are a developed country. We have high rates of internet penetration. As I told you, we are a friendly people, and we have a good climate times there. And we have an ocean of opportunities. The language can be a barrier, yes, but it can be overcome. Okay, so here you have a little bit more information. I forgot to told you in my first speech, but Madalena, Professora Margozata, you can share my presentation for free. You can take these links here. And here you have my email. And you also can find me in the social networks, LinkedIn, Instagram, not TikTok, but you can find me there, and for me to be a pleasure to have you in my network. Okay, thank you so much. That's my speech for this moment. I'm free for answer your question.
Okay. Thank you, Professor. Yeah, the time for questions will be after the next presentation. So just now I would like Professor Evert. Yes, Evert, the floor is for you. Give us your presentation.
So I'm going to continue now. I like to say that I'm also a huge football fan. I love Lewandowski, especially because he plays for Barcelona. We had the same colors of my team in Paraguay, Cerro Porteño. But my son, he doesn't like football. He likes rock music. And say, Dad, please, do you know Adam Darsky? I don't know who he is. Maybe you can help me. So he wants a T-shirt of Adam Darsky. Maybe if you can help me. I don't know.
Yeah, he plays heavy metal, I think.
Okay.
He's not well recognized in Poland, you know, like he's a scandalous kind of.
So my son is a rebel then, right?
Yeah.
Damn it.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't say anything. Okay. Well, so back to, like I said, I teach very first semester students in Paraguay. They're just out of high school, very young, very naive. And I said, we're gonna start doing at least attempt of research in Paraguay. So I was telling them about the idea of that I like about the agreement with the European Union and the Mercosur. And I asked my students to look for possible situations or business opportunities or ideas that could be implemented through that agreement. And one of my students said, in Paraguay it's normal, I don't know here, so to work and to go to college. So it's pretty normal. I mean, they go to work in the morning and they study at night or in the afternoon. So let's say half of my students already work. And one of them, he's working in a bank. And he told me about this. And, hey, Professor, we have this institution which is called Mesa de Finanzas Sostenibles. Would be sustainable finance table or something. And I will explain you real quick what it is. Okay, so a little bit of explaining the role of the financial system play. And the story is that this table of the finance table basically was born, 5 banks united and they kind of did a self-regulation task. So they say, we want to offer some services to our customers, and especially in the agriculture and cattle business, but we are going to comply with what the European Union and the United States and the first world, so to speak, the industrial world, are regulating. So they start creating these guidelines in order to get loans. So let's say you own cattle or you're in agriculture, you're growing, I don't know, soybean or something. In order to get those loans, you had to follow these guidelines. And I thought it was really interesting because It was not mandatory, it was not a law, but they self-regulate themselves, which is really strange for banks, right? So you see there, first they say, okay, let's work as they work in Europe. Let's self-regulate ourselves. Let's comply with sustainable activities, right? So they can be clean. So this is the story that this table started in 2012 with these 4 banks, Sudameris, Continental, Regional, and Vision. So actually it's one of the first in Latin America. So for the first time, we did something good in Paraguay. And then it started to grow. So in 2014, they add 2 more banks. One of them, the first 4 are Paraguayans. On the second one one of them is from the Mennonites. We have a Mennonite colony in the Chaco, which is very productive, and they have a lot of money. And Itaú, which is a Brazilian bank. And then you see how they start adding more members, and now they have 18 members in this table. So we had 13 private banks, 2 public banks, and 3 financial institutions. So they regulated first, and then the Central Bank of Paraguay emitted a resolution about this, how to, let's say, implement clean techniques for cattlery and agriculture. So I thought it was fine. So we find this interesting idea, economic idea, and I asked my students to start searching. So they created with me this presentation. You see? And we had, for example, here 3 guidelines. The first one was created by the Sudameris Bank. It's for a livestock guy. So to get the loan, you had to follow these guidelines. 2017 was for agriculture, another bank. And the last one was in 2018. It was for agro-industrial guy, from Banco Continental. And the thing is every bank followed the same guideline. So if you want a loan for a small business, a big business, regarding these areas, you should follow. Otherwise, you won't get the loan. So this is the vision and mission of the table. These are the impacts, the ideas that they have, the values that they have. And for us, what was interesting is, like I said before, how can companies itself can start self-regulating, and because it's not common. And by doing this, they get a lot of funds from the third floor investment. Like we have an institution, it's like AFD. So the banks are the intermediaries, the third party on these loans. So they manage the loan, but the money comes from a national institution. It can come also from the World Bank or the IMF. So here we see the alliance, the strategic alliance that this table has. So they work with many institutions from the US, from Europe. The good thing is it applies not only to the big, because we in Paraguay have a few people that owns a lot of land. So this also is one of the reasons of the differences between people there. Other alliances that they have, they work with NGOs and all that, with the stock market in Paraguay. So this is an example of good business practice. And that was one thing. And the other thing, that all the research was conducted by my student. I sort of just do like I advise a little bit, but most of these was created by my students. So they also look for the financial information. So this table represents 98% of the total loans of the system, which is incredible. And it means that we are really following these guidelines, these eco-friendly guidelines. So these are the significant advances. You can see there. So this is a good example of how can actually in Latin America we can do good work also. So we can start our economic relationship. First, you can visit for 1 semester to see how Paraguay is like, and then if you like, we can start doing business. So this is a projection that they did. So the green investment will be the main type of investment in the world, especially with commodities. And also, like Professor Malgorzata said, all our energy is 100% clean. We don't use nuclear, we don't use charcoal, carbon, nothing. So everything is clean. So this is just an example of how I can work with my students, and they did all the research for me. And this is a starting point for doing more research and in a more complex situation. So thank you. I just show you this example. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor. So now we can start question session. So maybe Professor Joanna, you first, comments and questions, please.
Thank you very much for both presentations, really engaging and thought-provoking. And I have a lot of questions, but for sure we will not have time for all of them. But I would like to start with something that really kept my eye during your presentation, Professor Ildeberto, about the agriculture sector in Brazil. That, of course, it is one of the most important and just like the basic part of the economy, and probably will be developed further. We should be concentrated on this also in the eye of the Mercosur, the European Union agreement implementation. So everything just calls our attention in this. But I would like to ask you about the research on this sector, especially the improvement of the productivity of our agriculture sector, and how do you build this triple cooperation between, the business, I mean the agro-business, that is really strong, especially in Brazil, the university, and the government. I mean, this kind of cooperation here in Poland is like the most difficult part of our work and university life, because we are all the time struggling, yes, just to implement our research results in the economy, in the business. And it's not like that the business comes to the university and asks us, let's do some research and we will pay you for this. It's not that easy. Yeah, and I would like to ask you about this kind of cooperation, especially in the agro-business, because this sector is very strong, but probably it's not very open to new methods, or maybe I'm wrong, because normally, people are used to do all the way themselves, and you can show them you scientists, I mean, you can show them how to produce more efficiently, how to enlarge the productivity of the sector. Do you go to the business, or business goes to you, or maybe the government just says you, please, your university, you focus on this field. So how do you manage this complicated cooperation?
Yeah. I believe it depending on the area. Okay. First, I will considering the link between government, universities, and the producers, the farms, small farms or big farms. We have an institution called Embrapa. It's the meaning is research, agricultural research institution, more or less. It's a government institution. They provide research about agribusiness, not for the big ones, but specific for the small ones. We call the homemade productions or something like that. Lettuce, vegetables, the most of the production in Brazil for these items are from the small producers, not from the big producers. Okay, and this institution, the Embrapa, provide students linking the research and the practices. They produce tutorials, courses, and studies, etc., regarding this area. For the other side, we also I also observe companies' investment. For instance, for machinery in the sugarcane, I know a lot of companies for tractors, etc., that develop specific machines to specific crops. And it is a two-way link, because for instance, some sugarcane users need a machine, and they look for a company that produces that machine and to sell that machine for the other companies. So I observe in agriculture this kind of cooperation, either considering the Embrapa and either considering the companies.
And I would like to ask also about the role of Chinese technologies in all this, you know, because we talk about the possible European Union and Mercosur cooperation and all this, and we have a lot of opportunities here in Poland, that's obvious, but we can observe that Brazil is really interested in the cooperation with developing and enlarging the cooperation with China. And last week, a visit of your new president, Lula da Silva, in Beijing, and so on. It was like important event for the global economy, probably global international relations as well. And China is perceived as the source of new technology in Brazil or not? I would like to ask you, because you know, here in Europe and probably in Poland as well, we have probably a specific and different view on this kind of cooperation and on the role China can play, you know, in the global chess play. But for you, I just believe that China plays a very special role. And how do you perceive this? And this is my one question. And the second, very much connected with this. And what is the cooperation between your university, I mean the researcher, and the research you make with the Chinese universities in this field?
Okay, very good question. The investment of China in technology in Brazil, I can tell you about a project that I participate 2 years ago. I think I don't remember exactly. In Brazil, we had a law called Information Technology Law that provides some benefits in terms of taxes for companies investing in university or research groups to develop research. And I had a project with Huawei, the company. It was a project in cooperation with another university, and they were interested in develop some technologies, in my case in artificial intelligence applied to law, but also artificial intelligence to healthcare and also to the fishing. The professor from a university nearby Ribeirão Preto had a very interesting project using artificial intelligence for fishes. So, but not the case here. What was the proposal? They sent to us equipment, computers, and we developed the applications for that computers. So we had a strong cooperation in this scenario, in my case specifically. I know that, for instance, in the 5G implementation in Brazil, we are in course now, the most of people said, so Huawei to be the most player, etc., etc. But if you see the competition, the Huawei was not in scenario, but the Huawei was in the background. The equipment to connection, they are all from Huawei. I know that because in that corporation, the Chinese chairman there told us about that. So you have this strong comparison.
And don't you perceive this a bit dangerous? I mean, don't you perceive this a bit dangerous, this kind of relationship with Huawei and China technology?
In my case, I didn't see any problem. Just the only problem we have, because when the equipment are going to Brazil, Bolsonaro said something related to China, they just stopped, no, wait a little minute. That was the problem. We were for free to develop the things, just to present it to them. And we also visited the supply chain center they have in Sorocaba, a city nearby São Paulo. Is for the Brazilians another world. It's very, very big, all controlled by IoT and robots, etc. And I believe this cooperation is very important. Regarding specifically my university, we have an agreement with a Chinese university, but we have no so much interchange of students. We have the agreement, but no projects or students changing the words for the moment. I know just one case of a Brazilian student there and a Chinese student in my classes.
And I'd like to add about what he said. For example, Paraguay is one of the few countries that doesn't have any diplomatic relations with China. We have relations with Taiwan, and Taiwan invests a lot in Paraguay in terms of they give grants for everybody. It's like if you want to go to Taiwan, you can go. Basically, to study, I think it's Mandarin, the language, and it's all free. They pay everything. Actually, they are building, or they're going, I'm not sure yet, but they're going to build a university of engineering with Taiwanese professors in Paraguay. And that would be the first example of a university that would be all in English. So yes, everything will be in English.
So this is possible to
Yes.
to
Yes,
develop or this kind of cooperation. And I just know that between Paraguay and Taiwan, this is one of the most, the strongest and like the most long-term cooperation, because since 1957, if I remember well, you have established this kind of diplomatic relationship, and you are very, very close in this cooperation. But this Sunday, you'll have the presidential election.
We have election.
And this is one of the issues during the presidential campaign. Still have the relationship with Taiwan that's strong, and I believe that in the technological field and maybe the cooperation between universities, this is really something that you appreciate and should keep to. But the other candidate, presidential candidate, just says no. Let's start this kind of relationship with China instead, because they need our soya beans, for instance, and we will build our power as the soya bean exporters.
Yes.
So
Well,
how do you perceive this?
one of the main, like, so to speak, the people that they want to have relationships with China is that Taiwan doesn't have any real economic cooperation. It's mostly like donations and like giving money to Paraguay to stay loyal in many ways, right? And actually, there is economic exchange with China. It's just not official. So I think we exchange more with China than with Taiwan, and in terms of goods. And on the other hand, what I was going to say, I forgot. Okay, I lost the idea, but I was.
Okay, anyway, the people from the audience, do you have any comments on this issue or questions to speakers?
So China buys a lot of meat of Brazil. Yeah.
Oh, I remember now. So
okay.
We export a lot of beef to Russia, for example. That was. And now that the restriction, I think it's either totally blocked or just a few % of the original export. So we have a huge problem because Russia was one of our main receivers of our beef, and that was a lot of money for us.
Please export more beef to Poland. We will welcome.
Well, yesterday I went to a nice restaurant, and the meat tastes like Paraguayan. Maybe it was.
And you students, do you know that whenever you go to, I don't know, Costa Coffee or whatever chain here in Katowice, for instance, to buy your cappuccino with soya milk, all this soya milk comes from Paraguay.
Yes, yes. I did a little bit of research also.
So, any questions, comments concerning the products from Paraguay or Brazil? No. Okay. So I would maybe change the topic. I have the question, very trivial but actual, and this global issue. I suppose it is ChatGPT. to Professor. Professor Ildeberto is a computer science professor. So, Professor, what is your attitude towards the chat GTP? It is a threat for e-learning or just a joke? What is your attitude toward this?
It's an interesting topic.
Yeah.
At the first moment, I got some scared about ChatGPT. I just think by myself, oh, I believe I lost my position. And as a professor, the students can now reach or have the answers for everything. But we have a comma there, because in my point of view, I can think, okay, ChatGPT can give you the answers, but are they the right answers? That's my first point for thinking about. And after that, I just think, okay, that position, if you has an enemy, why not to be a friend of this enemy? Why not to try to change the view about the use of ChatGPT? And I have some experimental case in my course now. I have a course in programming language, in Python programming language, and I said to students, you are free to use ChatGPT if you want. Mm-hmm. Let's control the experiment here. We are going during this semester. The course is hands-on, 100% of the time. Every class, the students develop scripts, and I just tell to the students now, so guys, today my topic of class is, for instance, if statement. Ask to ChatGPT about if statement. And they ask and give me the answers, and they discuss about the answers. Okay, that answer seems to be the right one. Or no, this is not so interesting. Let's ask a little bit better. And at the most of the time, the students are liking this situation. And I also ask to deploy a script to solve this problem. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they ask to ChatGPT, and the answer is completely wrong. They just copy and paste to the IDE, to the Python interpreter, and the result is not that result. And they ask, oh, I believe it's not right. Okay, so I'm studying there, but I believe for learning it can be a lie, depending on the situation. I also have some discussion with some lawyers regarding ChatGPT, because there is a point of view that ChatGPT will be a substitute for the lawyers. You can ask to ChatGPT, oh, I have this problem, how can I solve using the justice? And probably ChatGPT will write to you, I don't know, petition, initial, but I don't have any study about that. I have a study about application of the education, and for a while, I can tell you, so for me, ChatGPT can be an ally. I don't know in the future, but I use it as a tool to my class. Mm-hmm.
We lawyers, we're going to find ways to regulate that. Actually, that's the debate now, right? How to regulate something like that. I don't know if people, do you agree with the regulation, or do you want it to be free? Another problem would be if it's very highly regulated, but what if we have a dark ChatGPT, right? Which probably they are already.
In the point of technological, in the technological point of view, ChatGPT is a supervised method. So you can input the training data set, and from this data set, you can got the answers. If you have a wrong input, you probably have a wrong output. And that's the point of attention, in my point of view. If you input wrong things, probably you can take wrong things using the ChatGPT. But for the other side, I agree with Evert here. We need the regulation. Okay, we have the case on Italy. For instance, in Brazil, we have the discussion, but we have no actions from the government, or etc. We have just in course in Brazil a discussion about a law. Okay, we have a law for protecting personal data, for some actions on the internet, but nothing about artificial intelligence. We have an strategic plan, government strategic plan about artificial intelligence, but not a law. For the other side, for instance, Italy is not allowed to use ChatGPT in Italy. They cut in the routes. I don't know if this is the exit, because probably you can be a gap of technological students. In my point of view, we need to study a little bit more, but at this moment I'm just thinking this can be useful in some situations. I mean.
And the other problem is technology is always one step or two steps ahead of regulation. So when you regulate ChatGPT, then you have a new thing and a new thing. Well, actually, when I was flying over to Poland, I was watching a movie. Maybe you remember Ex Machina. Have you ever watched that movie? I was so scared. I'm like, it's not only that I'm going to lose my job. Maybe, I don't know, it was really scary. And I was listening to an interview with Elon Musk, the owner of Tesla, and say we had to regulate this because otherwise we're gone.
Yeah, there is a problem that today we have ChatGPT, but tomorrow we have another systems, but belonging to artificial intelligence. And I think that in this way, this university role is changing, yeah, because of this availability of artificial intelligence in e-learning. But on the other side, you mentioned regulations first or implementation first. Yeah? So we are thinking about the rules and regulations on artificial intelligence, or we just have to implement and then think what we will have to do. So that is two ways, yeah, on this. Yeah.
And I would like to comment on this because you just asked a question, what will be the role of professors at universities? I believe it's changing, of course, but we have to adapt, of course, to new technologies. But as I have a look here, this room, there are many people just using their laptops here, probably some of them listening to us carefully, and some of them even checking. If you said 28%, they will just check, oh, it's the 27, it's wrong. Yeah, but still, asking a good question is, is the art of the science. And if you are not able to ask a good question, you will not receive a good answer to this, and you will not have the ability just to assess this, evaluate this.
Yes, I agree. Like, I remember 5 years ago or 6 years ago, I was so upset when students have their cell phone. I mean, I'm so boring. I was so sad. But then I just realized it's just the way we are now, right? Even you see teenagers, they're talking to each other without talking. They're texting, and they're sitting next to each other. Mm-hmm. So that means teenagers, they don't want to make phone calls anymore. I call my son, and he never picks up the phone. He said, text me. So I don't know why nobody wants to talk anymore. And on the other hand, I think the new vision of teaching will be more about, go back to the basics, like philosophy, the meaning of things, what's the point of things, because technology comes, everything new, and we never can catch up with all the technology. It's like, we always don't know what's going on.
Yeah, and I was just astonished by the idea that some business leaders and some most powerful people talked about it. We should stop the research of the new technologies. So why? It's not
and
possible.
It's impossible, exactly.
No, of course it's not possible. We have to be, on the trend. Not behind, but on the trend. I mean the scientists and the researchers. So we have to know this, understand, and just make it possible to make all the legislation, for instance.
Now it's, I heard maybe it was in the US and in France, I don't remember, like TikTok is forbidden for like a governmental cell phones, for example, right? And everybody uses TikTok now, right? It's a good way to communicate something. I mean, we communicate a lot of stuff. Like people use that to sell stuff, like to teach about the law and technology. So it is very useful, but it belongs to the Chinese, and that's the problem, right? So
yes, and elaborating a little bit more on the subject and just referring to your Ildeberto presentation about the education, yeah, because you talked some basic facts about this, but I would like you to ask maybe both of you, because we don't know here in Poland probably much about the state of the education, especially I mean higher education in your countries. How do you perceive the change in last years, just following the technological advances in the world? Is the higher education, or maybe more broadly the education itself, changing and adapting to new technologies? How do you see this in Brazil and Paraguay?
How can I answer to you? Because we have very different scenarios in Brazil, depending on the region, depending on the university. For instance, in my case, University of São Paulo, and even in my department, we have a different case. I try to tell you the situation. The beginning of the pandemics, I remember until now, it was the 16th of March, the rector just announced suspending the classes. On the next week, I start my classes on the remote. But some professors waited 3 or 5 weeks to start the classes. Okay, why? In my specific situation, I already have some use of information technology tools from studying not just the use of technology, but also the pedagogical use of this information technology tools. My learning environment was already prepared. Activities, and also nowadays I have a lot of activities to be performed online. I have classes today in Brazil, and the students there are doing this class in the remote mode. Okay, I record a little bit talk, and I provided exercise to be executed in online mode. So for me, it was very easy to change, and it was really good. So during the International Week, I did totally remote. And in my point of view, it was really good, really interesting. But for other professors in my department, it was very, very difficult. They are not prepared to that. But they deliver the class. But for the other side, depending on the university, they were not prepared. For some federal universities, because in Brazil we have federal universities and state universities. I am from a state university. We have a huge investment. But for federal universities in some states, this year they are going in course again because they spent almost a year without classes, because it has no support to the classes. So even in University of São Paulo, until today, we have a problem with poor students. We have a lot of programs that we have positions for poor students or considering skin color, etc. But we have two kinds of students. For instance, for the remote, I had the students that has a notebook, good internet connection, and other students has no internet connection. And I need to think about activities to cover that student too. In my point of view, I have success in this case, but I agree that should be a kind of a lack. For the other side, I'm observing here a lot of notebooks opened. And I perceive to a lot of students this way. And probably they are using the smartphones. And my question is, who are using ChatGPT to ask some questions about our presentation now? Or use it ChatGPT?
Hand up. Oh.
For homework.
For homework, for instance.
Yeah.
No?
Yes,
Yeah.
But my question is, when you use the ChatGPT, do you usually agree with the information they give you? When you, oh, this is not true. I mean, do you always agree with the information they gave you if you analyze it? Interesting.
I think for the most of you, or for all of you, it's not possible, or it's not so interesting to have classes just in the black board, isn't it? Yeah. What do you think about? If I just give up my presentation here just to talk to you about the things without presentation, what do you think about? I believe it, oh, that professor does not prepare a PPT presentation. Okay. We have generations, and we need to adapt to that generations. I know some professors are not so open to that, but we need to adapt. The same case to the ChatGPT. As I told you, okay, let's use it in my class. Why not? Let's think about together how to use.
Yeah, the blackboard and the pencil is going past. Yeah, but you see, in the situation we are talking about digital health. So you can imagine, yeah, by example, you are going to the physicians and this person checking Dr. Google asking for the diagnosis of your health status. So I'm not sure how we can believe and trust in these physicians if they will learn from the internet, GTP, or whatever. So how to trust in this, diagnosis in this technology? Yeah?
So I have two cases in the health. Real cases in the health. One is the father of a colleague of mine discovered a month ago a cancer in the brain. He was okay, he was in the beach okay, and suddenly he got some bad situation and make some exams and discover the cancer in the brain. The surgery were made by a kind of a robot. The situation, the scenario was more or less like that. It was not experimental, but they take image, ultrasound, etc., and map the exactly a point of the cancer. And the incision, it was very small, and the robot, using the mapping, just extract specific cells in the border. And it was a successful surgery, because there was a possibility to lost some movements, because the tumor was in a region in the brain very sensitive. For a while, he is okay. He's starting the chemotherapy, okay, but it did my attention because it was driven by a robot. You have doctors there managing, but we had a robot to make the surgery. And the other case, we have, I don't know the word exactly, diabetes. Yeah, that's it?
Yes.
I have a colleague that has a gadget, just monitoring the skin and send the information about the disease to the doctor. And when he came to the doctor, he has all the data to analyze the period and where they got insulin, etc. I can see benefits in using that. I like to run, okay, and I have my watch that monitoring my heart, monitoring my distance, monitoring, so everything. That's a kind of data from help that can help.
Or another example of that would be, I just heard that the use of technology in medicine, like, for example, you want to get operated by the best doctor in the world. So the best doctor in the world is probably in, I don't know, maybe it's in Germany, but you are in Poland. And then they have this kind of robot, but the doctors actually kind of like, if it's like a video game, they have the joystick and they start operating. That's actually happening already. So they operate at distance.
So in a distance, I believe you have some very interesting problems to solve. The lag is a really big problem. The connection is another problem. But in this case, I told you, the doctors are there just driving and managing, I believe is the correct word, the situation. In case of any problem, it was possible to instant change and correct.
Okay, I'm not an expert. So
And
you're the
still,
expert.
my question is, because you are a lawyer, how to guarantee that they don't commit any mistake, you know, and who takes the responsibility if there is? Because all the examples are amazing, really, and all these technological advances really help us a lot, because this kind of surgery wouldn't be possible without the technology using, for sure. But still, if there is a mistake, maybe in some, you know, connection between a human and a robot, and maybe, you know, in the procedures, maybe in software, anywhere. So who takes the responsibility? We should know this now, before.
Yeah, it's very complicated. I have seen many lawsuits in Paraguay regarding malpractice, But the problem is, it's, you know, every human being is different. So you have the technique, you follow the technique specifically, but then you have another problem, and then you die. So that's probably not the responsibility of the doctor. That was some condition that you previous have. So in order to determine who is to blame, you have to actually follow if he did all the procedures the way they were supposed to do. That was the only way that you can determine if they can take the blame or the responsibility for if they didn't follow the instructions. That is the only way.
Yeah, there is, I see two issues. And one issue is these robots and robotization, I would say. So they maybe would be helpful for physicians in any industry to realize the simple task, the routine work is realized by the robots. On the other side, there is a problem of the analysis of data, like you mentioned about this cancer, brain cancer. So you collect a lot of data. They call it artifacts, something what is abnormal. So there is a problem if of medicine and not strictly telemedicine, but medicine and healthcare. Thinking and collecting the data, the huge archive of data, and diagnosis with the artificial intelligence algorithm on this data. So then there is a problem how to properly use this artificial intelligence for diagnosis, for prediction. So can you comment these issues?
Yes. I will give some conclusion before my explanation. In my conclusion, I think we need to stop a little bit, to get a little bit slower, because we are going so fast and we are not understanding the real potential of data science and artificial intelligence. That's the first point. But back into the question, in my considerations, we have a lot of data, and from this data, I believe we have to pay attention in several situations. First, how to structure the data, and how to make this data trustful. I believe that's an interesting point to analyze and to discuss. I have no right answer about that. We are trying to every time to take better data. The other point is related to this data to be open or not. It will be available to others and make research and to check the data and to make a group decision, as we are discussing in the break. Here, I also think that we need to think a little bit more about the methods we are using to, and about the data we have to be available. Some of data, for instance, medical data, we have very information about the person, and we need to be very careful about that, to not be available information like specific about Evert, for instance. So it's unethical, as a professor told us today, for marketing, but you need the ethics and make this data available. And also for using artificial intelligence. You have the use for the good size and for the dark side.
Yeah.
Okay. back into my conclusion again, we need to get a bit slower and to think about our results because we are going so fast in the technology development, mainly regarding artificial intelligence.
Yeah. And I would like to refer shortly to your presentation for a change, Professor Evert, so about this kind of cooperation in the financial sector, let's say, in Paraguay, which was really a nice example how to do it well and how to do it well. So maybe it's a worthwhile lesson also for us here, although the country is bigger and we are in the middle of the European Union, so we have to keep to all the procedures within this integration block. But still, I would like to ask you if you consider it is possible to implement a common currency, maybe in Mercosur, because from time to time this subject just comes back and you talk about. So I would like to know your thoughts about it. This is a realistic option or not? Just having a look at what's happening here in Europe, for instance. And what's the role of the National Bank of Paraguay in all this scheme that you talked about? So is it present or not? And what's the role, I mean, of the government and maybe of the National Bank? Is it helping or just stopping this?
Okay, on the first question, I would like to follow the Polish example. I will remain with the Guarani, which is our currency. Actually, the Brazilians and Argentinians, they thought about having a single currency. But for us, I don't think it would be a good idea. All the prices will be up, and I don't know, and we're still very poor. And will be very detrimental of our interest to change that. And then we've seen some examples of Argentina changing its currency to 1-to-1 to the dollar and then end up in a disaster. Also Ecuador. And I don't think that's possible now. Who knows in the future, but maybe when we all got rich through the agreement with the European Union, maybe we can change that.
We discussed a little bit about that yesterday during the dinner about why the dollar is the strongest currency today. But back into our scenario on Mercosur, we have first to decide economical and also political decisions, but we are so far from that, I believe.
Yes, and to answer the last question, we had a big crash in '95. It was internal. All the banks, like I would say, more than half of the banks went bankrupt because there were not enough regulations. And after that, in '96, they made a law which was very good, a good law, and that law, the central bank was already created, but with this law they give them a specific task, and one of the good things about that law was that it allows the bank to be completely independent from politicians. So it's a good example of usually the head of the central bank have master's, PhD in the United States or in England or in Europe. So these are very highly qualified people. So far, it's still independent. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow?
Okay, what is the inflation rate in Paraguay?
I think it's not that high. It's maybe like 6 or 7% now. It's getting higher, but it was really controlled for over 20 years. But now it's getting...
So you are in better situation than we are here in Poland. So this is, again,
Thank you so much.
This is very optimistic sign for the future. Anyway, we have to finish a very interesting debate, the discussion about the socio-economic challenges and the future possibilities of the cooperation. Anyway, thank you so much for getting us to the very far continent, very close. So right now we know much more about it, and we see the opportunities how we can cooperate on the university level, on the business level, and also on the cultural level. So thank you very much. It was really, really pleasure to host you, and thank you so much that even you are very busy, you find the time to come to Poland, to Katowice, and to share with us your knowledge and experience. And I strongly believe that being you present here, not online, is much, much better and much, much profitable here for our students and for all of us. So thank you very much. And right now I will take another order, because when I invite you, I start with the foreign professors. Now I would like to start with the chair of this session. So I would like to say thank you to Professor Małgorzata Pańkowska. Thank you very much. Now I would like to thanks to Professor Joanna Gosławska-Bolek. And to our Latin America guests, thank you very much, Professor Ildeberto. Thank you. Last but not the least, Professor Evert. So I really believe that you will visit our university again, and we have a chance to cooperate together. So thank you very much also to all of you, to our professors, to our PhD candidates, to all the students, because everything what we do, we're doing for you, because we would like to inspire you, to give you some insight that the economical challenges are everywhere. They are on different phases, but this is the place that we can cooperate. Thank you very much, and see you during the next edition of Economics Without Borders. Thank you very much.